The crowd's cheers turned to screams in less than 3 seconds. Caroline Pratt's hand broke the surface of the black water one final time before disappearing forever beneath 7,000 pounds of rage. But what you're about to discover will shatter everything you think you know about that horrific day. Because Caroline's death wasn't an accident. And the proof has been hidden for 8 years. My name is Sarah Chen, and I've spent 2 years investigating the most covered-up incident in marine park history. What I found will make you question everything you've been told about animal entertainment. 3 questions haunt everyone who witnessed Caroline's final moments. What really happened beneath that water? Why did a bond built over years suddenly explode into violence? And most disturbing of all, did Caroline know she was going to die? Here's what they don't want you to know. Caroline Pratt had been planning to expose SeaWorld's darkest secrets just 72 hours before her death. She had evidence. She had documents. She had recordings. And then she was silenced forever. But someone kept copies. Caroline Pratt wasn't supposed to be a marine trainer. She was supposed to be a veterinarian, following in her father's footsteps in rural Montana. But at 19, watching her first Orca show in San Diego, something clicked. The massive black and white form moving through crystal blue water didn't look like a performer to her. It looked like a prisoner. That's when Caroline made the decision that would eventually kill her. But here's what you don't know about Caroline's early years. She didn't just love these animals, she could communicate with them in ways that terrified her supervisors. Veteran trainers who worked with Caroline told me something chilling. The orcas responded to her differently than anyone else. They were calmer around her. More focused. Almost protective. Which makes what happened next even more disturbing. Caroline's private journals, which I obtained exclusively for this investigation, reveal a woman growing increasingly terrified of the very animals she devoted her life to protecting. Her entry from March 15, just 2 weeks before her death, is haunting. Titan looked at me differently today. Not like he was angry. Like he was calculating. Like he was planning something. Titan. The 7,000-pound male orca who would soon drag Caroline to her death. But Caroline couldn't quit. And here's the twisted reason why. SeaWorld had her trapped in a contract that would have bankrupted her if she left. She owed them $180,000 for training costs, and her salary barely covered rent. Caroline was financially chained to the very place that was about to kill her. And management knew it. Internal emails I've uncovered show SeaWorld executives discussing Caroline's reliability issues just days before her death. She'd been asking too many questions about Titan's medical records. She'd been demanding to see his behavioral assessments from his previous facility in France. She'd been making noise about trainer safety protocols. In corporate America, that makes you a problem to be solved. But what Caroline discovered about Titan's past would have shut down SeaWorld forever. And they knew it. The morning of April 3rd started like any other at SeaWorld Orlando. Caroline arrived at 6 a.m. for her usual pre-show routine with Titan. But something was different. Staff members I interviewed described Caroline as visibly shaken and unusually quiet. One trainer, speaking anonymously, told me Caroline seemed like she was preparing for something terrible. Because she was. At 7:15 a.m., Caroline called her sister in Montana. The call lasted 3 minutes. Her sister Lisa has never publicly revealed what Caroline said during those final minutes, but she agreed to speak with me exclusively. Caroline's last words to her family will haunt you. If something happens to me today, it won't be an accident. Promise me you'll keep digging until you find the truth. 8 hours later, Caroline was dead. But here's what the official reports don't tell you. Titan had already attacked someone that morning. A maintenance worker was rushed to the hospital at 9 a.m. after Titan lunged at him during routine pool cleaning. The incident was logged as equipment malfunction in official records. But security footage tells a different story. The show was supposed to be cancelled. Management overruled safety protocols and ordered Caroline into the water anyway. 3,000 families watched Caroline Pratt die that afternoon. But what they saw wasn't the whole story. Because SeaWorld edited the footage before releasing it to investigators. The raw security recordings, which I've obtained through a whistleblower, show something that will make your blood run cold. Titan didn't attack Caroline in a moment of animal instinct. He stalked her for over 11 minutes before striking. The edited footage makes it look like a sudden explosion of violence. The truth is far more sinister. Titan was hunting Caroline, and he was patient about it. The real footage shows Caroline attempting to exit the water multiple times. Each time, Titan would position himself between Caroline and the pool edge, forcing her back toward the center. Marine behavioral experts who've analyzed this footage say Titan's actions show premeditated aggression, something that shouldn't exist in animal behavior. Unless that animal has been driven insane by years of captivity and abuse. But wait. It gets worse. Caroline's waterproof recording device, which all trainers wore for safety, captured audio from beneath the water during the attack. SeaWorld claimed the device malfunctioned and recovered nothing. That was a lie. I have the audio. Caroline's final words, spoken underwater as Titan held her beneath the surface, will destroy you. I'm sorry, Titan. I tried to help you. I tried to tell them what they did to you. What had they done to Titan? The answer is buried in classified medical records from his previous facility in Marineland, France. Records that SeaWorld paid $2.3 million to suppress. Records that show Titan underwent experimental psychological conditioning designed to make Orcas more manageable in captivity. They didn't just capture Titan's body. They broke his mind. But Caroline found out. And 3 days before her death, she contacted a journalist about exposing SeaWorld's use of psychological torture on their orcas. She had documents proving that multiple facilities across Europe and America were using these techniques. She had video evidence of the procedures. She had testimony from former SeaWorld veterinarians who'd been silenced with massive financial settlements. Caroline Pratt was about to bring down the entire marine entertainment industry. Then she disappeared beneath black water, and all her evidence vanished with her. Or so they thought. Caroline was smarter than SeaWorld realized. She'd hidden copies of everything in a safety deposit box in her hometown bank. Her sister Lisa found the key in Caroline's apartment, along with a letter explaining where to find the evidence and what to do with it. That evidence has been buried in legal proceedings for 8 years. Until now. The documents reveal something that will change everything you think you know about marine parks. SeaWorld wasn't just hiding Titan's violent history. They were deliberately placing dangerous animals with trainers who asked too many questions. Caroline was the 7th trainer in 5 years to die under suspicious circumstances involving orcas with suppressed behavioral records. 7 trainers. 7 cover-ups. 7 families who've been lied to about how their loved ones really died. But Caroline's story is different. Because Caroline left us a roadmap to the truth. Her final journal entry, dated the night before her death, reads like a suicide note from someone who knew exactly what was coming. They think they can silence the truth by silencing me. But I've made sure that won't work. The evidence will survive even if I don't. These beautiful creatures deserve better than the hell we've created for them. And maybe my death will finally wake people up to what we're really doing here. Caroline Pratt died trying to save the very animal that killed her. But in her death, she exposed a conspiracy that goes to the highest levels of corporate America. Park executives who knew trainers would die and calculated it as acceptable losses. Government officials who took bribes to suppress safety investigations. Media companies that buried stories to protect advertising revenue. The raw footage of Caroline's death shows something else the public has never seen. In the final moments, as Caroline's strength failed and she began to drown, Titan stopped attacking. He held her gently, almost protectively, as if suddenly remembering who she was. As if the psychological conditioning finally broke, and Titan realized what he'd done. On the underwater audio, you can hear Titan's vocalizations change from aggressive to mournful. Marine biologists say the sounds Titan made in those final moments are consistent with orca grief calls, the same sounds wild orcas make when a family member dies. Titan knew he'd killed his friend. And the psychological torture that drove him to violence couldn't erase that understanding. 3 months after Caroline's death, Titan stopped eating. He died of starvation in his concrete prison, surrounded by trainers who couldn't understand why he'd given up. But Caroline's evidence explains it all. Titan wasn't just an animal driven mad by captivity. He was a victim of deliberate psychological abuse, programmed to be violent, then punished when that violence manifested. Both Caroline and Titan were victims of the same system. Both died because profits mattered more than lives. The conspiracy Caroline uncovered reaches far beyond SeaWorld. Her documents name government officials, corporate executives, and even journalists who took money to suppress stories about trainer deaths. The network of corruption she exposed spans 3 countries and involves millions of dollars in hush money. But here's what will shock you most. Caroline's death wasn't the end of SeaWorld's cover-up conspiracy. It was just the beginning. Because Caroline had told other trainers what she'd discovered. And within 2 years of her death, 3 more trainers at different facilities died under similar circumstances. All 3 had been asking questions about their Orca's psychological conditioning records. The evidence Caroline died to protect is finally seeing daylight. Legal proceedings begin next month that could shut down every marine park in America. Families of deceased trainers are joining together in the largest wrongful death lawsuit in entertainment history. Government investigators are reopening cases that were closed under suspicious circumstances. Caroline Pratt's sacrifice is finally bearing fruit. But the most powerful evidence isn't in corporate documents or legal filings. It's in the audio recording Caroline made 3 days before her death, explaining why she was risking everything to expose the truth. These animals aren't entertainment. They're individuals with complex emotional lives, and we've tortured them into madness for profit. If exposing that truth costs me my life, then maybe that's what it takes to finally end this nightmare. Caroline knew she was signing her own death warrant. She chose to do it anyway. The next time you see an Orca show, remember Caroline Pratt. Remember that every trick you're watching was taught through psychological torture. Remember that every trainer in that water knows they might not come back up. Remember that the beautiful, intelligent animals performing for your entertainment are prisoners driven to the edge of sanity. And remember that one brave woman died trying to set them free. Caroline's story isn't just about one trainer's tragic death. It's about an entire industry built on suffering and sustained by silence. It's about corporations that view human lives as acceptable losses in pursuit of profit. It's about a conspiracy so vast and so well-funded that it took 8 years and one woman's ultimate sacrifice to bring it to light. If Caroline's death means anything, it means the end of an era. The evidence she died to protect is already changing laws and shutting down facilities. Her sacrifice has sparked a global movement that will eventually free every captive orca in the world. The harrowing last moments of Caroline Pratt weren't just the end of one woman's life. They were the beginning of justice for countless animals and the trainers who died trying to protect them. Caroline's final message to the world was recorded on her phone just hours before her death. The truth is worth dying for. Please don't let my death be meaningless. End this. Free them all. We're finally ready to honor that request. If this story moved you, if Caroline's sacrifice means something to you, share this video. Subscribe to our channel. Help us continue investigating the stories that powerful corporations don't want you to hear. Because Caroline Pratt's death was just the beginning of a much larger story about corporate greed, animal suffering, and the people brave enough to stand up against both. The truth Caroline died for is finally free. Now it's up to us to make sure her sacrifice changes everything.